Hello there, this is Anthony Johnson, and this is episode 6 of SQL Interview Prep. What is ISNULL and COALESCE? And tell me about them. This is the question that the interviewer will pose to you. So ISNULL and COALESCE are both functions in SQL that are used to handle null values. They work similarly, but there are a couple of distinct differences between the two. So ISNULL is T-SQL specific, meaning that it belongs to the Microsoft SQL Server SQL form or the version of SQL. And COALESCE is supported by multiple management systems. Relational Database Management Systems, RDMS. So, ISNULL, it does replace the null value as far as if you have a null and then you place inside your single quotes what you want to replace that null with, it works perfectly for that. It only takes 2 arguments though, whereas COALESCE, it takes a multitude of arguments. But the main difference is COALESCE will return the first non-null value. So if you give it a string of columns and say it's 4 columns and the first 3 columns have null value in it, it's going to return that 4th column that is not null, that actually has value inside of that column. So enough talking, let's get to work. Okay, so we see here we have remote employees. Let's just query this table. And as you can see here, we have one column with, well, one row with 2 nulls in it. So let's just focus solely on that column right there. So we're going to actually do, I'm going to put a where clause on here, where emp ID equals 3. Equals 3. Alrighty, so let's use the emp address and the city. So we'll do emp address and then city. All right, so using ISNULL, we'll do ISNULL, open parentheses. Your first argument is the column name. And then your second argument will be what you want to replace that null with. So we'll say no addy. And then you want to give your ISNULL column an alias because it will have a no column name above your column for your header. So we'll just call this address. And then for city is null. City is your first argument, and this is your second argument. We'll say no city. Just label that city. And as you can see, we only have what we placed there because the actual value is null. So we're replacing it. We're checking the emp address. We're checking the city column to find null. And if it is null, replace it with no addy and no city. And that's exactly what you see there. So now let's actually copy this portion right here. Now we're going to use coalesce. Select coalesce. And then we're going to give this 3 arguments because we want to check the IP address. We want to check the city. We also want to check the state. And we'll change it to no location. So essentially how this works is if there is a value, without a value, if there is a record in there where there is no, if there is no value at all, and they're just all null values, that's where the no location will come in at. But since we have values, well, a value inside of the state column, that's what it will return. And as you can see, even though I still have it on the screen, Costa Rica, which is state, it returns that. So let's just tack on something real quick. Insert into our remote table again. We'll do select for. I will do null, null, null. Let's just insert in there. 4 values, yep. Okay, so we have 1 row. Now let's simply change our where clause to a 4, just so you can see the power in it. So now we have no location. Now just to, quick recap, ISNULL and COALESCE are both used for handling null values, but there is a caveat with that. ISNULL can only take 2 arguments, meaning the first argument is whatever value you're checking, meaning it can be a variable, it can be a parameter, it can be a column. Whatever that first argument is, your second argument will be, what do you want to replace that null with? It's typically a function. I mean, that's what this is. It is null function. And that's how it operates. So your first argument, what do you want to replace it with? Coalesce works similarly, but it literally can take more than 1 argument. This could be a multitude of variables, a multitude of parameters, and then finally you end it with what you want to replace the null value with. So if you don't have any values in any of the columns that you're checking, that's when your last argument, which is what you want to replace the null with, that's when that is triggered. But other than that, if you change this back to 3, coalesce will return the first not null value. So you see here, we gave it IP address, city, and state, which is these 3 columns after our IP ID. We have null, null, then Costa Rica. So it bypassed both the null values and just returned Costa Rica. But when we change back to 4, and as you can see, 4 has 3 null values for that same combination of columns. This is where your replacement value will be kicked into. So I hope this was helpful. Hope you guys have a blessed day, and bye-bye.